Michael Porter, who probably anybody who's touched on strategy in any way would have heard of. He's kind of famously differentiated strategy from operational effectiveness. And like his argument was that strategy is about making unique choices rather than only or simply improving efficiency. And in your book and in your writings, you suggest that much of modern business strategy isn't credible, to use a nice euphemism.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, could you break down what aspects of business strategy are missing his distinction and why you think they may not be credible, and maybe how companies can shift focus to get a real strategic differentiation? And I know we use companies, but there's like all different sizes of organizations, and I think the large ones, probably have resources to do it themselves or bring in consultants, but it's maybe that SME sector that might, need some hacking or some insights that's useful.
Sure. Well, I mean, Michael Porter's stuff it's 100% spot on. You won't catch me having any disagreements with Michael Porter. The problem with him and all the other similar strategy stuff, really, I suppose, is based on where it's all come from, which is a kind of an academic corporate sphere where they're putting across exactly the right ideas which every single business on the planet needs to know. But because they're putting them across in a kind of academic corporate way, it doesn't get cut through with 99.99% of the businesses out there. And so the effect of that is that 99.9% of the businesses out there, quite literally, they do not have a strategy. The majority of them, they would probably hold their hands up to that because they don't even try to have a strategy. It's not actually just something that crosses their mind. That already kicks out 80% of them. Then maybe you've got another 20% who are in the game of they're kind of vaguely conscious, what's our strategy kind of thing. But then what they use to fill in the blanks there could be all sorts of random stuff which doesn't fit into being strategies. So certainly what Porter says about strategy being a choice is true, but clearly it's not sufficient because all founders or CEOs or business leaders, they're making choices every single day, but it doesn't mean that they have a strategy. The strategy fundamentally, if you want to think about it in a universal way, a way which is relevant, just as relevant for like an SME or a solopreneur as it is for Shell or General Electric or something like that, is basically just your way of delivering a form of unique value to the market. Because ultimately, this is the only game that any business is in. And it's crazy how, no one ever tells us this. There's no kind of maybe if you do an MBA perhaps, but to my knowledge, there's no class that actually tells you really what business is. We're just expected to just know what a business is. We all know what a business is. But actually, if I really pinned you down and said, define a business for me, that's actually quite a difficult question. The answer is very simple, but it's a difficult question because we never think about it. But all a business is a system of generating value, which it can then exchange for more value on the marketplace, i.e. which it can exchange for money. So all your business is, no matter what kind of business it is a value generation machine. And the more value you generate, the more value you collect. It's very, very simple. And then the reason I bung on the word unique onto there, so not just value, but unique value, is because if you generate value, but customers can get it from lots of other places, then that's what we call a commodity. And although you might be able to sell it with a bit of hustle, you're not going to be able to make significant profits, and you're not going to be able to grow significantly. So when we just unpack it like that, you have to provide value. Number one, give people something they want. But number two, it has to be something that they can't get from anywhere else. Unique value. That ultimately is all that strategy is, in my view, for any business on the planet. And I think that most founders would be very well served to step back and just ask them and just recognize their entire responsibility, their number one responsibility as the leader of that business is to suss out that equation and to figure out, how can I drive up demand, but how can I also drive up scarcity? But you tell me, like, what percentage of a average CEO or founder's day is spent consciously thinking about that riddle, about those two parts of the equation? I would venture 0%, not even like 2%, 0% for most of them.